You are listening to the Real Estate Growth Hackers Show.
Welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Growth Hackers Show. On today's episode, I've got Dan Corkill, the CEO of Follow Up Boss, and we're going to be talking about the power of SMS marketing, of texting as a real estate agent, as a real estate professional, as real estate teams, right? How to leverage this concept and why it's so powerful in your real estate business. So, without further ado, Dan, go ahead and say hi and let us know a little bit about your backstory and Follow Up Boss and where it comes from.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Zach. So I'm originally from Australia, and just sort of had a starting my career in finance, and got into like online marketing, tech, that kind of thing, and kind of went out on a crazy limb and wanted to start a software company with my co-founder Tom. We didn't really know what we were going to do. We kind of had sort of a general idea of building a CRM of some sort, but we ended up talking to a lot of real estate agents in the US, funnily enough. And a lot of we were just trying to understand their pain points. So, I was just really trying to understand what problems they were experiencing. And this was back in 2011. And the big trends there were, they're starting to get a lot of online leads from places like Zillow. And they're also doing a lot of their own, like Google AdWords lead gen. And they're also starting to build teams because they need teams of people to look after these leads. And, those trends over the last 10 years have just continued every year, getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But yeah, the software industry really wasn't set up to serve people in that way. A lot of software was more legacy, like you're a single agent in a brokerage, you're working with your sphere and past clients. So yeah, really what Follow Up Boss does is we bring all your leads into one place and all your contacts and all your past clients, and then just make it easy for you to, call them, text them, email them, stay in touch with your people basically. And yeah, close more deals because, the thing I kept hearing was, I know I'm going to make more money if I follow up more. Every salesperson knows that, right? And that's where the name comes from, Follow Up Boss. It was the Follow Up Boss part was just, that was the domain that was available, right? We go searching for what we can get. And, fast forward 10 years, we're lucky enough to be working with like a lot of the top teams in the country. And it's been a fun time.
Awesome. And I mean, I honestly love that aspect of the name, because the reality is, agents tend to be addicted to like the lead generation side, right? And they seem to inherently believe that at the foundation of their problems is they just always need more leads. But the reality is, after a certain point, really what an agent needs is they need more follow-up. They need to actually follow up with those leads effectively and properly in order to really get the value that they've already paid for, right? And so just by the nature of what you guys have focused on with your name, I feel like you're focusing on the biggest area that real estate agents often are dropping the ball, which is how are they doing that follow-up? How are they actually long-term nurturing those leads and making sure that they're finding those opportunities? So yeah, that's awesome. And so I know, our topic today is texting and SMS marketing and all that you guys have learned from that. So while you guys offer a number of ways to follow up with people, you and I were talking before about one of the key areas where you found really is kind of a, if there is one, a little bit of a silver bullet, a little bit of a magic sort of follow-up method, and where that method specifically comes into play. So if you wouldn't mind, would you dive into some of why you've seen that being so powerful? What separates SMS marketing from email or direct mail or other ways that people maybe traditionally follow up?
Yeah, for sure. Like we definitely focus more on the sort of like the follow-up sales aspect of it rather than like any kind of mass, marketing, texting type campaigns. But, I think the appeals is, it's fast. It's fast to send, fast to, get it on your phone. You don't have to answer your phone and be like, I don't know this number. Like, who is this, right? So you can't really answer the phone at work. So a lot of people obviously have jobs, and, they can't take calls there. It's easy to ignore if it's not, relevant. It's a very fast way when those, initial inquiries come in. So we can send an automatic text out. That's one part of it we do automate. So you can really get back to them really quickly when they just made a warm inquiry, whether that's on Zillow or Realtor.com, etc. just as a stat, in a regular month, we would send about 20 million texts back and forth. And this is conversations people are having. So just, that's is a crazy number. And that's, I think, yeah, people just love it. It's like, I love texting. Everyone loves texting. I think it's just it's something that's changed over the last 10 years as well. Like 10 years ago, it wasn't that common to text people. People did it, obviously. Right. Even when I was a kid, people did it, but it's just, it's taken off. Right. And then, I think,
I was just gonna say, and on that note, I think it's shifted. Like when it started is you would text your friends and family, but it wasn't really common to like send or receive text from just like businesses and anybody, right? Where that shift has definitely come along in recent years as well, which helps with this concept too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, real estate is really like B2C, right? But you're right. There's a business involved, and yeah, that's one of the ways it's changed. And I always sort of think of it as like, treat it as like you are texting your friends, and sort of similar kind of language and style. Sometimes I think people are trying to like take the style they've used maybe in like a formal email or something, and that just doesn't work at all in texting. Right. So yeah, you just want to communicate in the same way people are used to, getting text from their friends and family. Sure.
Yeah. And just a couple of quick stats for people. Part of why I found that texting as, a tool in your follow-up process is so powerful. The average open rate for an email, it depends on how well you're managing your list, but 20% is pretty good for most people doing kind of a mass email marketing, getting a 20% open rate. Of those 20% people, off of the sends, you're seeing anywhere from like a 1 to 5% click-through rate, probably closer to 1 in general. So you send 100 emails, you get one person actually click through and do something with it, right? Whereas with a text message, you see somewhere around 95 to 99% open rates on text messages. People basically, if you send a text message, the chances of somebody seeing it are just drastically higher than they are if you send an email. And so similarly, the response rates off of text messages, again, if you're doing it right, if you're sending something that looks spammy and nobody wants to respond to, you're not going to get responses. But if you send a message that feels friendly and readily replyable too, then you could see massive reply rates on top of that. So just, when you're just looking at the pure effectiveness of it, you generate a lead that's only an email versus you generate a lead that you've got a cell phone number for, your chances of actually being able to get in contact with that person are just drastically higher. That for me is one of those reasons why I just love it as a follow-up strategy for sure. Now, with that being said, one of the things that we talked about coming into this conversation was that it's always been the case that text messaging has a little bit more requirements and compliance sort of hurdles that you have to be aware of, that you have to be ready for either way. But that's actually that's shifting even further, right? So there's actually some new things on the horizon when it comes to compliance with text messages and SMS and how you do it and all of that. I'd love it if you could speak to that and some of what you guys are seeing and what real estate agents should be prepared for.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely been a little bit of a shift. I think 10 years ago, it was a little bit of the Wild West because, again, like you were saying, it was more just for texting your friends and family. Businesses weren't really using it. Scammers weren't really using it. Now, like every second day, I'm getting a text saying, Dan, you want to lose weight? And I'm like, I do, but like, I don't want to click your dodgy link that's offering, some kind of weird thing.
Right.
You're getting all kinds of, scams as well. Like Wells Fargo is texting you, it's like, so basically carriers have seen that. They know consumers don't like it. And basically, they're starting to set up more and more filtering. There's also, more and more legal, things that they're sort of looking at, like how they can find people that are abusing their networks, things like that. So it really was a bit of the Wild West. I mean, a lot of real estate coaches used to really heavily promote mass texting. So just texting everyone in your database, and there were software companies promoting that. Now, virtually no one does that because there's just so many repercussions to that. You can get fined. You really have to, you can do it if you just really know your list, people have opted in and all this kind of stuff. But the reality is people weren't getting that kind of permission, and they were sort of, abusing it a little bit, right? So we still see some stuff like that today. Very occasionally, someone will work, like our system has safeguards built into it, so people that can't go and do things like that. But occasionally, someone works out a smart way around it. And it's not that we don't want to help them, run these sort of cold texting campaigns, but the reality is it's too risky to us as a business. We think it's very risky to them, and everyone's sort of cutting down on it. I think similar to sort of email reputation, I think that's how phone numbers are becoming. And what carriers are looking to do is really tie that number to a business. So they can say, hey, look, this is Zach Hammer's podcast business number, Real Estate Growth Hackers. And we either trust it, or we think it's mediocre, or we think it's spam, right? And basically, that's what we're seeing. And that's how I think you want to be thinking about it. Before, there was like this strategy of rotating numbers. And I think that's, again, like something that everyone's very aware of that strategy. And so they're sort of looking to cut down these kind of loopholes of just, oh, you burn this number and you go and get a new number, right? So, I think there's, on the plus side of all that compliance stuff, which sounds a little, scary or whatever, it's good for the people that you do have permission. You're using it for legitimate business reasons, and you're getting in touch with the people that want to hear from you, because now your stuff's going to make it through. And then hopefully once they work a lot of this stuff out, we're not going to be getting all those scam texts and, weight loss texts, etc. Right?
Exactly. And I mean, that's the reality. One of the jokes in like the internet marketing sort of world is us marketers are really great at figuring out a technology and then ruining it for everybody, right? Because we like love it to death. And that's essentially what has happened, right? Definitely, when there is the possibility for overusing something, people are going to. And so just in general, a good principle to take away from that, whatever you're doing marketing wise, there's always that question that you should step back and ask yourself, like, if I wouldn't enjoy being marketed to this way, it may not be the best strategy for me to implement on my own, right? Because it might work for a time, it might work for a period, but chances are the world adapts and it's going to go away. And if you're building your foundation on something that just annoys people, it's not going to work for long. And it makes much more sense to build sustainable practices where this is a process that that works for people. I'm doing it in a way that people are okay with, and even if I was on the receiving end of this, I would be okay with receiving this text message rather than this formal looking thing that looks like spam. So yeah, I'm with you. So it's kind of the same basic concepts of email, where there's more and more it's becoming required for the people on the receiving end to either be expecting it, or for it to be done in a friendly way that feels like they're really where it feels natural. It feels natural for a text message to be sent. Now, one thing I'll throw out there on your behalf, you're exactly right. There are a lot of companies that aren't paying attention to this, that are advising people in a way that they may not even realize is exposing themselves to legal and financial risk. So anybody listening, I highly encourage you to look for companies like Follow Up Boss, where they're actively paying attention to what is going on in the industry, what these regulations are looking like, and doing their part to help keep your eyes on it, right? Because it could be really scary if you think like, hey, I've got this working strategy, and then I leverage it, and you're exposing yourself to, I forget what it was. I think it was like $5,000 per fine per instance that some people were exposed to with improper text message campaigns. So definitely look at Follow Up Boss. They're Dad just mentioned they're paying attention to these compliance issues. So if you're looking to implement these strategies, you definitely want to check them out. Now, continuing on from that, so let's get into the actual tactics here of say that I'm an agent. I love the idea. I see the benefits here of using text message marketing and SMS in my business to follow up. What are some ways that as an agent I could start doing this? What are some of the tactics that I could really dive into and leverage as part of the strategy in my business?
Yeah, for sure. So one of the ones we've used for a long time is when the initial inquiry comes in, say it's about 123 Main Street, just came in from Zillow. We send an auto text out that says, hey, Zach, I just got your inquiry on 123 Main Street. Do you have a moment to chat? ? And that gets like a 50 to 60% plus response rate because they wanted to hear from you, right? That's an inbound lead, as opposed to like maybe where they've registered on your website and it's more of like a passive. They just want to look at properties. They didn't want to get in contact with an agent. And so we find that's just really great for setting up the first phone call. And sometimes people say, oh, I'm busy with my newborn twins or whatever it is, right? I'm going to be available later today. Most of the time people just say yes. And so occasionally people say no, but at least you kind of, you know that up front. The other way is when that initial lead comes in, sometimes you do get a bad email, like maybe you got a typo in the email, right? But you text them and they get through it that way. So I think it's not, sometimes we do see this, or a lot of times we see this actually, where people are choosing like one or two follow-up methods, but really, you can be using all three, like calling them, texting them, and emailing them. I mean, some people also do social media and messaging them there and stuff, but texting is really one of those quick ones. If you've got their correct number, again, they're going to see it very quickly. It's not going to get lost in their email. So yeah, that's, I mean, super powerful for that. The other thing is,
real quick on that note. So what I've called that in the past is a multimedia follow-up approach, right? And so the reality is everybody has their own preferences, their own way of doing things. You will find somebody, you'll find a number of people that they live in their email, and email is going to be the best way to find them, right? And so you want to make sure those emails are going out. It's not like you want to leave it behind, but you will find that more and more people are starting to become, fluent and active in texting, and the benefits of that definitely are powerful. So, texting, calling, all of them, they getting all of those methods out that's what's going to give you the best chances of actually getting the response, right? Employing them all. So it's definitely a tool in the toolbox, and not like the only tool. So anyway, go ahead. And what was your next point?
Yeah, I would say, so the other thing we're seeing a lot of, we've implemented group texting in our system. So just like you would do normally on your phone, this works really great for handing off leads to lenders or to your agents. So let's say, for example, you get a new referral as the team leader, but you're out of production, or you're trying to hand off, buyers to your team. You can actually just hit a button and loop in one of your agents and then introduce them. And it's just a nice, friendly way to do it, instead of just saying like, texting them saying like, oh, hey, Zach's going to get back to you in an hour, or, and then they, maybe they don't hear back, maybe they do, right? So it's a nice way to introduce people. We definitely find we have like a lot of inside sales agents working in our system, and they're using that to introduce, do warm handoffs basically of leads. So
that makes sense. So, I mean, like imagining that scenario, pretty much any time that you're looking to have a pass off of a person, right? Like there's the experience of, hey, like either you go and do the next step, right? Which that never feels good, right? Where it's like, hey, go and contact this person. Maybe they'll get back to you. Or here's their information. They'll be getting back to you. That never feels as good as like that warm handshake where you're passing them off to the person right there. You're seeing the conversation, and there's that blended transition from one conversation to the next. The other thing that does too is it increases the likelihood that the conversation will continue, right? Because just like you mentioned, whether it's just the human nature of failing to follow up or failing to make the call or whatever, there's like a momentum that happens in a conversation. If you're talking to somebody and you need to connect them to the right person, it makes more sense to do it while they're there and active, rather than hoping that it connects later, right? So I love that. I love that you guys have that. So even as an agent, if you're looking to implement these principles, when you're following up with somebody, if you have to do it manually and you're using your own phone to make these text messages, learn this. This is a good strategy for how you can make those pass-offs. Now, given there's going to be some issues in managing that, and that's part of where Follow Up Boss comes into play to keep this all centralized so you know what you're doing. But as a strategy, it's something that people can implement for sure. So so we got group texting. What's the next strategy that you guys are finding is useful?
Yeah, I would just say, just as we close down that one, just make people feel really special when you hand them off. So you just use language like, hey, Zach is one of my VIP clients. Please make sure you look after it. Things like that. Just when you introduce people, it's a really nice touch. So something else I'm excited about is we just launched video texting this week, really, to everyone. So it's been in beta on our platform for a few months. But basically, yeah, now you can record a video of yourself. It can actually be quite long. You could walk around the house, give a tour of the house. It's high definition, and then we send that to people, and they get a link. They can click it and just plays straight away. So yeah, we got a lot of demand on our platform. The reason we added group texting and video is because we had a lot of agents using the texting, but then they say, but what about when I need to do a group text and include the spouse? Or, what about when I want to send a video? So just as more people were sending the text, we started to get like those kind of like objections, I guess, from agents, because they're like, I just want to keep doing it my way. I like it. But then if you do it through your phone, it certainly is convenient, but it's not tracked into a system. So it's terrible for accountability and all that stuff. So yeah, video texting is one thing I'm definitely excited about. And, not everyone, I mean, myself included, don't love being on video, don't love sending short videos to people. But I think it's something, if you can push your comfort zone a bit and even just use it in the right scenarios, you don't have to use it every day, but like, yeah, it can be super handy. And it's just an extra tool there. Great way to, like we're doing right now, right? Like you get your face out there, people get to feel like they know you a bit more versus just text or just email, things like that. You just communicate a lot more, right?
Yeah, I forget the exact stats, but there's kind of almost a cliche at this point of the amount of information that's communicated through the various styles of communication, right? So it's like if you just have the words, you've got, let's say, 10% of the message communicated. If you've got the written word plus audio, that adds another 10 to 20%. But if you start adding in components like being able to see somebody's face and actually seeing body language and expression and all that detail, that actually conveys a lot more information, a lot more context. It's a really great step in helping people to not only get the information that they need, but start building rapport with you as a person. Because ultimately, it's not like there's going to be some point where they don't interact with you, right? Like however you look, however you talk, however you are, at some point they're probably going to meet you in person and they're going to see it, right? So there's no need to be afraid of hopping on camera and just being you, talking to them. And what's cool is that the kind of messaging that works for something like video via text message, it's a lot of the same kind of stuff that you might send via text message. It's just short, simple, quick messages can be really powerful. Just to say something like, hey, I saw that you inquired about this property. I'd love to get you more details. Just checking in to say hi and let me know if I can help you. Right? Even simple messages like that can go a long way in showing that you're real, showing that you're not the scammy number that's trying to reach out to them, showing that you're a real person that actually wants to help them. So yeah, I love that you guys have implemented that. It's a super powerful feature, especially being able to consolidate that into a trackable system where you could keep track of all your leads and really have it all housed in one place.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's definitely cool. And, I'm sure you get people coming up to you saying like, hey, they feel like they know you because they've probably seen a few podcast episodes. Like once people see you on video a few times, there's this thing where they just start to feel like they know that person. Like if you see a news anchor a couple of times or a YouTuber, right? You just, I don't know what it is, but yeah, you start to feel like you know them, even though you don't.
Exactly. Exactly.
So yeah, the other thing we do is in the system is we have templates. And so the benefit of this is like, one, you're saving time to, instead of writing out the text every time, you can start to use proven templates. You can share them with your team. But the other cool thing, for the marketers in us is we track all your stats against that. So you'll get your reply rate, you'll get your unsubscribe rate. And that can really highlight some problems with texting, because if you have a very low reply rate, that's definitely one of the things that carriers look at. And that's definitely one of the things that just, even yourself, you should just know, well, wow, if 0% or 1% of people are replying, that's not a good reply rate, right? So we're generally looking for about, at least 30%. That's kind of, I think, what carriers are generally looking for. They don't give like an exact number, but I think that's what they're sort of looking for, to see that like this is some two-way communication happening. Like it's not just, hey, I'm blasting my list with text messages. And similar for like the unsubscribes is basically when people text back stop, they want to see like a fairly low amount of that as well. So you can track that with the templates and, make adjustments or see which ones are working well. which is just, yeah, good practice to measure.
Yeah, and that actually that brings up a couple of ideas for me. Knowing that and knowing that you guys have that in store, and being able to track that, what I would recommend is that as people use that tool, use at least 2 messages, right? Because like you're going to be able to see very quickly, it's a simple split test. One is going to perform better than the other, almost definitely. And if you only use one message, you don't really know if you could beat it, right? So by always using 2 and sort of switching between them and just seeing what those rates look like, you're naturally going to be able to improve over time what the reply rates are. You learn from what you see in a message, and you can start honing it in and getting that better. But the other thing, you just briefly mentioned this, but it's a really good principle that I think people should make sure that they're implementing. If what we're looking for is reply rate, by definition, that means that our text messages need to include a question, right? So that's a great thing to note, and just to remember that as you're sending out these messages, if you're sending out a message that doesn't have a question, or that doesn't have a what's the next step, or can I give you this, or would you like this link, or whatever, even if you're sending something that maybe you perceive as being of value, at a high level, the cell companies, the telephone companies that are going to be tracking this aren't going to be able to tell if people are enjoying and engaging with the information or not, because all they could really look at is if they're replying. So make sure that you're leveraging that. When in doubt, make sure there's a question there rather than just sending somebody the information, right?
Oh, absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, it's kind of sales 101, right? Like they've done all these studies of like, the best salespeople, and they just ask the most questions. They spend the least amount of time talking compared to the salespeople, which talk a lot and don't ask a lot of good questions.
Right.
So yeah, including that, I mean, it just makes it easy for people to reply, like you already said. And yeah, it just keeps the conversation moving. Otherwise, sometimes you can get to this awkward pause where you're like, what should I say next? So you should be the leader as as a real estate professional. You should always have that next question. What do you need? Or it can even be, do you need anything else at this time? Like things like that, if it's wrapped up.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, that's some really great, powerful ways that people can use text messages. I love this topic. So what did we cover? We covered, making sure that people are up to date and familiar with compliance, that you're partnering with companies that are paying attention to that, so you're not exposing yourself to undue risk. Just to make sure this part's clear, as a real estate professional, you are responsible for your own level of risk, right? Like as a business owner, you do have to know that anything that you do, you are ultimately responsible. But you can make good steps to say, hey, am I at least partnering with people that are paying attention to this, that are making good decisions, and doing the best process for minimizing that exposure, for sure. We talked about how people could be using group texting as a way to both communicate with multiple people at the same time. If you've got a spouse that you need to bring into the loop, or more importantly, for those times that you need to do a handoff or a connection to either somebody in your team, whether it's a lender, whether it's title, or even agents on your team, right? So the people that you might be passing the lead off to work within your company. We talked about video texting and the way that allows people to connect with you. That's definitely a powerful point to be able to leverage that. And we talked about really templates and the power of being able to pre-think about what needs to be said in those messages, so that when it's time to actually send somebody a text message, that there's powerful ready to use messaging, that you don't need to be creative and think up something at the blank page, which is always hard to do in the moment. That you batch that work on the front end, you make sure of what those messages need to look like in advance, and then using a tool like Follow Up Boss, you're actually able to track the effectiveness of those various messages. And so I love these points. Now here's the reality. The reality is that implementing this information is possible, even if you're not using a tool like Follow Up Boss. But here, if somebody really wants to get the best, most systematic effect of implementing these kinds of processes, you need a tool like Follow Up Boss, where this is all contained. It's in the same place where you're focused on your business, and it's not getting lost in amongst the text with family and friends and maybe other tools, right? You want to consolidate it. If you're a real estate team leader, you want to be able to make sure that these leads that you're paying for are getting followed up with properly, that you could see how they're flowing, how they're getting processed, and all at the same time equipping the agents on your team to effectively follow up with those leads using current features like video texting, group texting, etc. So I'd highly encourage you, if you're listening to this show, if you like these strategies, if you like this concept, check out Follow Up Boss. We've set up a link to refer out to them at realestategrowthhackers.com/followupboss, where you can go and check them out. That link will kind of let them know that we sent you. It's a thank you to the show. Your main website is followupboss.com. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. And then on that same note, is there anywhere else or anything else that you guys are up to that you want to let people know about?
If you wanted to go to our Instagram, just instagram.com/followboss as well. I mean, you could see some of the like video texting features and things like that. Yeah, I mean, we have, like Zach already mentioned, we have a 2-week free trial. We'd love you to check us out. And I think the reality is most real estate agents have, completely blended their personal phone number with their business phone number, right? This is a reality. But we do have a lot of our customers that are like kind of claiming that back. They really do use their Follow Up Boss number as their business line. And they basically kind of claim back their personal line a little bit, or they just reserve their personal line for the clients they're working with. So, that's something that can maybe give you a little bit of life balance back. But, I know being a real estate agent is, hard enough and chaotic enough a lot of the time.
Yeah, well, and not even just on the elements of like life balance and being able to keep that personal time. Obviously, that's important. That's nothing to to scoff at. But even if you're just looking at the elements of being effective and getting a good ROI, it's very easy to lose leads and lose these people that you're following up with if it's too blended with everything else, right? If you can't segment between, hey, the same phone number where I'm getting calls about renewing my what is it, the car's warranty plan, or the fake cars calls from the IRS or whatever, right? If I'm getting the same calls there as I am my business stuff, it's very easy for that stuff to get lost. And so being able to segment that out and really knowing when I'm getting calls here, when I'm dealing with people from here, I'm in business mode. I know what I'm doing. I know how to process this, right? Versus most of the stuff that happens on your personal line, it's personal. It's about your personal life, and you've probably not spent hundreds of dollars to generate the calls that are coming through on your personal line, right? So yeah, I think there's a lot of power in being able to have a place to be dedicated and focused on your business and separate that out from your personal life, just to both keep your personal life good and clean and clear of business, but also to make sure that you're effective. So again, I highly encourage. I love what Follow Up Boss is up to. I love your software. I've got a number of clients who used it, who work with you guys as well. I know they're super excited and happy with what they've got going on. So definitely check them out. realestategrowthhackers.com/followupboss. Check them out on Instagram. Check them out online. I'm sure wherever you look for Follow Up Boss, you're going to be able to find some great stuff from them. So in conclusion, Dan, do you have any parting words that you want to leave people with as to kind of wrap up this topic of text messaging for real estate agents?
Yeah, I'd just say just do more. Get out there, get organized, make sure you're staying in touch with people. Like you said, get systematic about it. We've got the desktop apps. You can actually do a lot more than you can just typing it out on your phone all day. And heading into 2022, I just hope everyone has good holidays and is ready for crush some goals next year. Awesome, great stuff. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Dan. Thanks everyone for listening, for tuning in, for watching, listening wherever you consume this. If you love this episode, please be sure to give Dan a 5-star review on our podcast. Let him know that you love the content that Follow Up Boss brought here today. Mention him by name and say hi wherever you listen to your podcast. Otherwise, like, comment, share, spread it. If you know somebody else that you think might get value out of this, let them know. And in the future, we'll just see you on the next episode. And
thanks again for tuning in and listening to another episode of Real Estate Growth Hackers.
Thanks, Zach. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Growth Hacker Show. Remember, done is better than perfect. To turn the marketing ideas and tactics you just learned into real growth for your real estate business, visit us at realestategrowthhackers.com. If you like this episode, consider sharing it with another real estate professional who could benefit from the information. Or maybe you'd like to subscribe to the show to never miss an episode. And you can leave a rating or review on iTunes with your biggest takeaway, helping this show to reach and help more people just like you. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next episode.